We are meeting up with Walter today to get an update on the progression of the renovation.
So what made you decide to buy this house and do this renovation?
It really wasn't this house in particular. I always wanted to restore an historical home. It's kind of hard to find them. That's kind of in a state that's either could be saved or is somewhat original. This one just popped up for one day. I found it on Google out of all places. I never found it on like the MLS. And I contacted my realtor, came out and looked at it with a friend of mine. Me and him was actually going to restore a house together, but when he came in, it was a little too wavy for his liking. The floors was all out of place and he kind of got scared a little bit and went on his own way, but I fell in love with it right away. And I put an offer in on it. I think within 3 days I had the house. It took a while to close, but we came to a deal within 3 days. And I took ownership of it on the 29th of January and started construction right away.
So what are your plans for the reconstruction?
The plans is after changing a few times since I started. I came into it just fixing it all. But then as I really started getting into the house, between the period of when I had a deal made with the realtor and to the point that I started construction was about 2 or 3 months. And the more research I've done on it, I really wanted to restore it to the way that it was. The plan, I guess, is, I've said it before a few times, just to have it as a newer version of what it is. I don't want it to be a cookie cutter house or walk into a house that it feels like you're into a new subdivision. I want it to be the way it was in 1920 or a little bit earlier, but just a little bit modernized for living. Like, I want an updated kitchen and I want an updated bathroom, but I want it to feel the way it should because of the age of the home.
And what are some of the things that you've run into issue-wise?
What haven't I run into? I come from a background of new construction where everything is very laid out. You know what to expect. It's one step after another. You could anticipate all problems, but this is new to me. This is the first flip I've ever done. And it's a restoration of a house that's over 100 years old, so every problem you can possibly think of, I've run into it so far. The biggest thing was the sills and the foundation. The foundation, as you can see, is a stone foundation. When we took up the floor, it was about 25% of it was missing, so we had to repair that. One corner of the house was sunk 6 inches, so we had to level it as best as we could. We got the floor dead level now, so once we get this in, it's a little bit of a solid level surface to work on. So up to this point, it took, I think we got 186 hours into it.
Wow.
But after this is done, things should, fingers crossed, move a little bit more quickly.
So what are some of the things that you have found in the house?
We found a lot of things, a little bit of everything really. We weren't really expecting to find anything, but when we took the floor up, it was mostly in one corner. The corner was the deepest corner of the foundation. It was about 3 feet deep. I'm guessing the original owners must have used crawl space as some kind of storage at one point. There was about, I guess, a foot of really light silty soil, and in that we found everything from buttons all the way to picks. We found fishing tackle, jiggers, shoe cobbler equipment, leather shoes, a pick, rake, a shovel, axe heads, the list goes on. We found definitely, I'm going to say 200 plus items.
Wow.
And all within a really small area. I would say probably 8 feet by 10 feet.
Wow.
It's pretty remarkable.
I would say too. It's like a treasure hunt.
It really was. We took 3 days. Once we found the first object, we were like, okay, we gotta take the time to search it. And we took about 3 days to search through all the soil until we found pretty much everything we could by hand. And once we got the full floor removed, we had 2 people come in with metal detectors and search the full area. So we felt comfortable that we found everything we could find before we closed it up. But we weren't expecting to find anything, but we found a lot.
So once the floor is in, what would be your next step?
This coming week, we're going to be finishing out this area that we're into right now. Then we're going to be doing some utilities. Just now that we got access, we're going to be running some water lines, and just so it's easier. After that, we're going to be putting the stairs back in, and the big thing is the double wall on the exterior. It's a little bit of a different thing. You don't see it too many times nowadays, but the original wall in this house is only 3.5 inches wide, which was common back then because there was no insulation in the walls. They didn't really care about efficiency, but nowadays it's a big thing. So we're going to be building the wall out a little bit to open up the cavity so we can put more insulation in. And once that's done, frame up the interior walls and move on to the outside. All the renovation we're keeping like the historical factor in mind. Like I know the original floor joists that we taken out was all logs. We had to remove them, they were just so old. They were dried out, they had no structure to them whatsoever. We obviously weren't going to put logs back in, but like all the lumber for this house is all milled here locally. It's not store-bought stuff, it's all big chunky lumber, and it got a historical look to it. We're trying to keep it in mind for all the replacements. We are going to put one floor joist back in, the original, and probably put like some kind of tag on it saying that it's the original floor joist and then it was taken out and the renovation was done in 2021. Just so if 50, 60, 100 years from now they go down and look at it, well, they'll know why it was there. But we're trying to keep it, pay respect, I guess, to the original.
Yeah, I love what you're doing. I love that you're trying to keep within the historic pieces of the house and incorporating it in your renovations. That's great.
Yeah, it's a shame to take it out. I wish the house wasn't as far as gone as it is, but you know, a lot of people probably would have came in and took the house down. It would have been easier to tear it down, to be honest with you, but it would have been a shame. Even if we can save 25% of the homes, it's worth keeping. The joinery, we pay respect to the way it was done originally. Is all lap joints. It's just done the way they would do it back then. Trying to keep it in mind anyway.